This is Marcus Kane, WLLR 9913 AM. If you are hearing my voice, do not turn up the volume. Do not put on headphones. And do not under any circumstances let this broadcast play through a speaker pressed against another person's ear. A woman in Tulsa died 40 minutes ago because her husband did exactly that. He thought he was waking her up. He was not. What you are about to hear is a work of audio fiction. All names, locations, and events depicted are imagined. Last light relay. Stay with us. 11:42 p.m. Central Time. A woman in Tulsa, Oklahoma, age 44, in good health, was found unresponsive in her bed by her husband at 11:09 p.m. Paramedics arrived in under 6 minutes. They could not revive her. No injury. No medical history. No cause of death apparent on initial examination. The coroner's preliminary note, which Sam has just placed on my desk, reads, quote, "Sudden cessation of brainstem activity. No precipitating event. No toxicology indicators. No cardiac event preceding loss of consciousness." End quote. I am not going to say her name. Her family asked. Her husband asked. He called this station personally at 10 minutes past midnight on the unlisted line because he had been listening to me on his drive home from the hospital, and he wanted me to know what he had done. He wanted me to warn people. He was crying so hard I could barely understand him, and Sam had to take down the details on a notepad while I kept talking on the air about something else, because I could not stop the broadcast in the middle of his sentences. Here is what he told us. He came home from a late shift at the warehouse where he works. His wife was already asleep. She had told him earlier in the evening that she wasn't feeling well. A headache, a tightness in her chest she could not place. She had taken something for it and gone to bed early. When he got home, he checked on her the way he always checked on her after a late shift. He sat on the edge of the bed. He leaned down close to her ear, and he made a sound, a specific sound, a 2-note hum, low, then high, the same hum he and his wife had used for 21 years to wake each other up gently, a private signal, a small piece of intimacy that belonged only to the two of them. He hummed it twice. He said she did not stir. He hummed it a third time, slightly louder, and she made a soft sound back. And then she stopped breathing. He called 911 immediately. Paramedics arrived in under 6 minutes. They could not revive her. He told them what he had done. He demonstrated the hum for them on the kitchen floor while they were loading his wife into the ambulance. One of the paramedics, a younger man, recently certified, recorded the hum on his phone, because by the time the ambulance pulled away from the house, dispatch had already flagged 3 other 911 calls in the Tulsa metropolitan area in the previous 90 minutes. Same pattern, same proximity, same outcome. 4 people, 4 households, 4 specific, intimate, familiar sounds, all dead before midnight. That recording from the paramedic's phone is now sitting on a federal desk in Oklahoma City. I have been asked by name not to play it on this broadcast. I am not going to play it, but I am going to tell you what we know, because what we know is enough to keep you alive tonight. And the federal advisory that came down at 11:58 p.m. does not contain the one piece of information you actually need. Stay with me. The federal advisory, issued through the emergency alert system at 11:58 p.m., reads as follows. I am reading from the printout Sam just put on my desk, and I am reading it word for word, because I want you to hear the language they used, and I want you to hear what is missing. Quote, Department of Health and Human Services, in coordination with the Federal Communications Commission, Public Advisory. A small number of acoustic events have been associated with sudden, unexplained cardiac arrest in adult subjects. Citizens are advised to avoid producing or reproducing unfamiliar sound patterns until further notice. Avoid contact with audio recordings of unknown origin. Further guidance to follow. End quote. That is the entire advisory. 3 sentences. 48 words. The phrase, "specific sounds are fatal," which is now scrolling across every cable news ticker in the country, and which is the phrase the wire services chose for tonight's headlines, does not appear in the federal text. Somebody at one of the networks looked at the body count, looked at the language the federal government had chosen to use, and decided the government's language was too soft. They are right. The government's language is too soft. The government's language tells you to avoid unfamiliar sound patterns. The government's language is wrong. It is the familiar patterns that are killing people. It is the sounds you have been making for years. The sounds that belong to the people you love. The sounds nobody else in the world would recognize. Those are the sounds that are killing. I do not know why the advisory is wrong. I do not know whether it is wrong because the federal authors did not yet have the data when they wrote it, or because they did have the data and chose to soften it. I am not going to speculate on air. I am going to tell you the facts as Sam and I are confirming them, one phone call at a time, and I am going to leave the rest to you. Here is the fact you need. The advisory is incomplete. Do not rely on it. Rely on this broadcast, and rely on what Dr. Halloran tells us when she calls back, and rely on the dispatch chatter Sam is monitoring through the scanner on the desk behind me. Nothing else is current. Nothing else has the numbers we have. Sam handed me a second sheet. Sam is my producer. He has been in this booth with me for 9 years. He does not write things down lightly. He does not slide notes across the desk for emphasis. When Sam writes something down and slides it to me without speaking, it means he does not trust himself to say it out loud. And tonight, he has written 4 lines on a yellow legal pad and slid them across the desk without speaking, and his hand was shaking when he did it. Line 1, 6 more deaths in the last 20 minutes. Norman, Oklahoma City, Edmond, Stillwater, Lawton, Ardmore, all Oklahoma. All within a 200-mile radius of Tulsa, all matching the same profile of victim in a domestic setting, killed by a sound made by someone close to them, with no external injury, and no medical precipitating cause. Line 2. The CDC quietly contacted the major broadcast networks at 11:45 p.m. and requested they pull all musical content for the next 6 hours. No songs, no jingles, no theme music, nothing with a melodic structure that a listener might hum along to. The CDC's reasoning, according to the request which Sam is reading me now through the glass, is that the carrier mechanism may be capable of using radio-transmitted melodies to seed fatal sounds in homes where listeners are humming along. Line 3. The network said no. 3 of the 4 major networks refused the CDC's request. They cited contractual obligations to advertisers and ongoing programming commitments. The 4th network agreed, but only partially. They pulled music from their owned stations, but not from their affiliates. So as I am speaking to you right now, somewhere in this country, on a major commercial station, a song is playing that someone in a kitchen in Kansas is humming along to, and that person may already be dead and not know it yet. Sit with that for a moment. 3 networks chose advertising revenue over a CDC emergency request. That information is going to matter later. That information is going to matter when this is over, and people start asking who knew what and when. Line 4. Diane is at the hospital tonight. Diane is Sam's wife. She is a nurse at St. John's Medical Center in Tulsa. Sam, if you are reading this back to me through the glass, I see you. I see your hands. We will get her on the phone after the next break. I promise. We will get her on the phone before anything else happens in this broadcast. Hold on. Here is what the first 4 Tulsa deaths have in common. I want you to listen to this carefully, because if you take one thing from tonight's broadcast, take this. Write it down if you have a pen. Repeat it to anyone in the room with you, but repeat it in a flat, unfamiliar voice. Not the voice you usually use with them. I will explain why in a moment. Every single victim was killed by a sound that was familiar to them. Not a loud sound. Not a strange sound. Not a piercing tone. or a sudden noise. A familiar one, a sound someone close to them made on purpose, close to their ear, the way you would whisper to someone you love. A two-note hum between spouses. A particular whistle a father used to call his children in from the yard. A hummed bar of a lullaby a grandmother sang 60 years ago. A nickname spoken in a specific tone of voice that meant something only inside one marriage, only inside one family, only inside one private and irreplaceable history. The sounds were not weapons. The sounds were intimacies. And tonight, for reasons no one has yet explained, the intimacies have begun killing the people they were made for. I want you to understand what I'm saying, because the implication is large, and I do not want to soften it. The thing that is killing people tonight is not noise. It is recognition. The fatal element is not the acoustic shape of the sound. It is the relational meaning of the sound. The sound has to mean something to someone in order to kill the person it means it to. A stranger humming the same two-note phrase to that woman in Tulsa tonight would not have killed her. Her husband humming it killed her. The hum was the same. The relationship was the difference. So I am asking you tonight to do something almost impossible. I am asking you not to speak to the people in your home the way you normally speak to them. Do not hum. Do not whistle. Do not say their name the way you always say their name. If you must communicate with someone in your home, use a flat, neutral voice. Use full sentences. Use words you do not normally use with them. Treat them, for the next several hours, like strangers you happen to be sharing a room with. I know how that sounds. I know what I am asking. I am asking you to become a stranger to the people you love, on the same night you most want to be close to them. I am asking you to refuse the comforts of intimacy, precisely when intimacy is the only thing that would make this bearable. I am sorry. I am as sorry as I can be, while still telling you what the data says. Keep listening. 12:19 a.m. The deaths are no longer confined to Oklahoma. Sam just handed me a county-by-county list compiled from emergency dispatch chatter across 4 states. Wichita, Kansas, 2 confirmed. Fayetteville, Arkansas, 1 confirmed. 1 suspected. Denton, Texas, 3 confirmed. Joplin, Missouri, 1 confirmed. Springfield, Missouri, 2 confirmed. Bentonville, Arkansas, 1 confirmed in a live stream we will discuss in the next section. Pittsburgh, Kansas, 1 confirmed. Rogers, Arkansas, 2 confirmed. The radius is widening. I have been timing it. I have been watching the geography of the dispatch calls expand across Sam's map for the last 37 minutes. And I have an estimate I'm going to share with you now, because Dr. Halloran has just confirmed it independently, and the number is too important to delay. The radius is widening at roughly 40 miles per hour. I want you to hear that. 40 miles per hour. That is not the speed of sound. That is not the speed of any broadcast signal I know. That is not the speed of any natural acoustic phenomenon. That is the speed of a slow car on a country road. That is the speed at which a person, in no particular hurry, might walk across a field if they were walking from one specific place to another specific place, and they did not want to attract attention while they walked. Whatever this is, it is moving the way a person moves. A geophysicist named Dr. Eleanor Halloran called the station 8 minutes ago. I have not been able to fully verify her credentials in real time, but Sam recognized the number she called this station 2 years ago, during the New Madrid tremor sequence, and her analysis at that time was accurate to within hours of the events she predicted. She told us on a recorded line, with permission to broadcast her findings, that her seismic array in central Missouri is registering a low-frequency carrier wave underneath the audible spectrum, roughly 4 hertz, below human hearing. The wave is moving outward from a point in eastern Oklahoma at approximately 42 miles per hour. She corrected the number twice on the call as she watched her own monitors update. She said something else before she hung up that I'm going to repeat now in her exact words, because I wrote them down. She said, quote, "The carrier wave is not killing anyone. The carrier wave is the delivery mechanism. The fatal sound is what gets layered on top of it, and the layering only happens when a human voice produces a familiar acoustic pattern inside the wave's reach." End quote. In plain language, the wave arrives, it listens, and when someone makes the sound of love, the wave kills the person the sound was meant for. She did not say what is producing the wave. She said her job is geophysics, not theology. And then she said she would call back when she had more data. And then she hung up. At 12:31 a.m., a man in Bentonville, Arkansas, live-streamed a video of himself attempting to disprove the federal advisory. He had been drinking. He had been arguing with his wife on the stream for several minutes about whether the deaths were real. He was, by his own description on the stream, a man who did not believe what the government told him on principle. And tonight, that principle was going to be tested in front of approximately 3,400 live viewers. He sat in front of his webcam. He smiled at his wife behind the camera. He told the audience he was going to prove the advisory was, in his words, fear-mongering. He whistled the four-note phrase he had whistled to his wife every morning for 16 years. A short, bright, descending phrase. 4 notes. The whole thing took less than 2 seconds to whistle. The video is 6 seconds long. He finishes the whistle. He looks toward his wife off camera. He starts to say something to her. The audio captures the beginning of a word, a vowel, the shape of her name in the front of his mouth. He does not finish the word. His face changes. His face does the thing that human faces do at the exact moment the brainstem stops sending signals to the muscles that hold the face in shape. He slumps forward into the desk. The camera continues to record for another 40 seconds before someone off screen reaches in and turns it off. I am told the video has been viewed 11 million times in the last 40 minutes. I am told it is still up on the platform where it originated. I am told the platform's content moderation team is in an emergency meeting right now trying to decide whether to remove it. And I'm told they have not yet decided, because removing it would be an admission that the video is dangerous. And admitting the video is dangerous would be an admission that the federal advisory is real. And admitting the federal advisory is real would expose the platform to legal liability for every other piece of audio content it has hosted in the last 6 hours. Do not search for that video. Do not watch it. Do not let anyone in your house watch it. Even if your speakers are off. Even if your headphones are unplugged. The reason is simple, and I want you to hear it clearly. Watching that video teaches you what a fatal sound looks like in another person's mouth. And tonight, every fatal sound you learn, every shape your eyes record of someone else's intimate phrase, is one your own mouth might accidentally reproduce later, in front of someone you love, without ever knowing that the shape was a death. We are not in a world where information protects you anymore. We are in a world where information is the weapon. The thing underneath the ground tonight is not learning from us. It is teaching us. Every video we share, every voice memo we play back, every recording of our own intimacies we have stored on our phones over the years, all of it is suddenly a curriculum, and we are the students. And we are also the test. Turn off your phone. Stay on the radio. Stay with me. 12:44 a.m. Sam reached Diane at St. John's. She is alive. She is in the cafeteria with 11 other staff members and 3 patients who were ambulatory enough to be moved out of their rooms. The hospital has gone to what they are calling acoustic lockdown, a protocol I did not know existed until tonight, and which Diane explained to Sam through the hospital's internal text system in 3 short messages that Sam read aloud to me through the booth glass. No intercom announcements, no paging, no background music in waiting areas. Staff are communicating with handwritten notes and hand signals. They have stopped speaking entirely, except in the cafeteria, where they are permitted to speak in flat, neutral voices to staff they did not know before tonight. Strangers, essentially. The protocol was developed, Diane said, by the head of neurology, who realized within the first hour of the Tulsa deaths that the pattern was relational and that any hospital that allowed familiar staff to speak to familiar patients was going to lose patients faster than it could replace them. Diane wrote a longer note to Sam, with permission for me to read it on air, because she said she wanted people to hear what was happening inside a hospital that had figured out the rule. I am going to read it in full. I am going to read it slowly, because every sentence contains information that someone listening to this broadcast right now is going to need within the next hour. Quote, 3 patients died in their beds in the last hour. 2 were comatose patients whose family members had come to sit with them and were softly speaking the patient's name. Both spouses of 40-plus years. Both used a specific pet name. Both patients flatlined within seconds of hearing it. The 3rd was a child. The child's mother was holding her hand and humming a lullaby, the same lullaby she had hummed to that child every night for 6 years. The mother is alive. The child is not. The mother is in our cafeteria right now. She has not spoken since she was brought down here. We are not letting visitors near patients. We are not letting anyone speak to anyone they know. The on-call neurologist says the brainstem in each victim shows a perfect synchronization with the 4 Hz carrier in the moment of death, like a tuning fork that has finally found the right note. Tell Marcus to say that on air. Tell people to stop loving each other out loud until this passes. End quote. Stop loving each other out loud until this passes. I am going to say that again, because I want it in the recording. I want it in whatever transcripts of this broadcast survive tonight, in whatever archives still exist on the other side of this night, in whatever future a stranger might one day search to find out what was being said on local AM radio in the middle of the country during the hours this happened. Stop loving each other out loud until this passes. Sam is sitting on the floor of the booth right now. He is not in his chair. He slid down to the floor while Diane's note was being read, and he has not stood up. I'm going to keep broadcasting because he has not signaled for me to stop, and because the masking tone has not yet been authorized, and because there are people listening to this who do not yet know what their husband's whistle is going to do, or what their grandmother's hum is going to do, or what their own voice is going to do when they next speak their child's name. Sam, take the floor. I have the booth. 1:41 a.m. We need to talk about children, because the calls coming into this station are now overwhelmingly about children, and the dispatch chatter Sam is monitoring through the scanner has been overwhelmingly about children for the last 40 minutes, and the pattern is clear enough that I'm no longer comfortable leaving it implied. 3 things are happening simultaneously in households with children under the age of 10, and I want to lay each one out so you can act on it. 1. Parents are forgetting the advisory under stress and reverting to the nicknames and lullabies and pet phrases they have used with their children since the children were born. The reversion is automatic. It happens without thought. A parent walks into a child's room to check on them, and the child stirs, and the parent says the child's name in the voice they have always used, and the parent does not even realize they have done it until the child is dead. 2. Children are calling out for their parents in the specific voices they have always used. A child wakes up in the night and is frightened and calls for their mother in the voice that has always brought their mother to them, and the carrier hears it, and the carrier kills the mother. The child does not know what happened. The child is still alive. The child will find the mother in the morning. 3. The fatality rate in households with children under the age of 10 appears, from the dispatch chatter Sam is monitoring, to be roughly twice the rate in households without children. The reason is not because children are more vulnerable. The reason is because households with children produce more familiar sounds per hour than households without. The carrier has more material to work with. The mathematics are simple and terrible. If you have a child in your home tonight, listen carefully. Do not respond to your child by name when they call for you. Go to them. Touch their shoulder. Sit on the edge of their bed. Use a piece of paper to communicate if they are old enough to read. Use hand signals if they are not. Hold up fingers. Point to things. Hum a tune you have never hummed before, a song from the radio, a melody you just invented, anything that does not belong to the relationship between the two of you. Do anything except speak to them the way you have always spoken to them. I know what I'm asking. I am asking you to become a stranger to your own child for one night. I am asking you to withhold the one thing your child most needs from you, on the one night your child most needs it, because the alternative is what happened in that hospital room in Tulsa, where a mother is still sitting in a cafeteria, not speaking, because she hummed a lullaby, and her daughter died. If the alternative is that, you will become a stranger for one night. You will explain it to them tomorrow. You will hold them tomorrow. You will say their name tomorrow, in the voice that belongs to them, in the voice the carrier did not get to take from you. Tomorrow is the goal. Tonight is the cost. Keep listening. 2:04 a.m. Dr. Halloran called back. Her array is now part of a network of 17 seismic stations between Texas and the Great Lakes that are all reporting the same 4 Hz carrier, and she has a shape for it now. And the shape is not what she expected. The wave is not radiating outward in a circle. It is not behaving like a normal seismic event, or a normal atmospheric disturbance, or any normal propagating wave at all. It is moving in a long, narrow band, roughly 90 miles wide, oriented northeast, and the leading edge has now crossed into southern Illinois. The trailing edge is still in eastern Oklahoma. The band is not dissipating as it moves. It is not weakening at its edges. It is not behaving the way physics says a wave of that frequency should behave across that distance, through that medium. It is being maintained. That is the word she used. Maintained. Not propagated. Not echoed. Not radiated. Maintained as in actively held, as in fed by a source, as in something somewhere is continuing to put energy into the wave to keep it the exact shape it is. The band has a width. The band has a heading. The band has a velocity. The band has all the properties of an object that is being deliberately steered. Something is keeping the carrier alive. Something with a source, a direction, and an intention. Dr. Halloran would not speculate on what. She said her job is geophysics, not theology. She said that twice in a row. The second time with a small laugh that I do not think she meant as a laugh. And then she said she would call back when the band changed direction, because she expected it to change direction within the hour. And she was right. At 1:58 a.m., 6 minutes before she called back the first time, the band turned. It had been heading due northeast at 42 miles per hour for almost 2 hours. At 1:58, the heading shifted 10 degrees east. At 2:14 just now, as I am speaking, it shifted another 7 degrees east. The band is curving. The band is following something. Dr. Halloran's only comment on the curve, before she hung up the second time, was that it was consistent with a search pattern, not a wave, a search. I am going to say that out loud one more time, and then I am going to move on, because saying it out loud helps me think. The wave is searching. The wave is looking for something specific, and every intimate sound it passes over is a data point in the search. 2:27 a.m. I want to describe the sound of the country right now, because the most important data point tonight is the one nobody is recording, and the only way I know how to record it is to describe it on the air while it is still happening. In every town inside the band, people have stopped speaking. The 911 lines in Tulsa are receiving calls in which the caller breathes into the phone and taps the receiver in patterns. 1 tap for yes, 2 for no, 3 for emergency, 4 for medical, 5 for fire. Dispatchers have adapted within hours. They are asking yes-no questions and reading the tap counts. They are dispatching units based on tap codes that did not exist this morning. Hospitals are operating in total vocal silence, the way Diane described, with handwritten notes and hand signals replacing every spoken interaction. Restaurants closed at midnight when the deaths began propagating outside Oklahoma. Bars closed earlier. Late-night convenience stores are still open, but the cashiers and customers are not speaking. They are pointing. They are nodding. They are completing transactions in a silence that I am told is the strangest silence the people inside these stores have ever experienced. The interstates inside the band sound different now. A trucker named, I am not going to use his name either, because we are no longer using names of anyone whose family might be listening. A trucker called us from a rest stop outside Joplin and described what he was hearing. He said he could hear a dog barking 3 miles away. He said he could hear the wind in a field of corn from inside his cab with the windows up. He said he could hear his own heartbeat, and he had not been able to hear his own heartbeat in 26 years of driving. And he was 48 years old, and he had no idea his own heartbeat was that loud. The country, inside the band, has gone quiet in a way it has not been quiet in 200 years. There have been quieter nights in human history. There have been wartime blackouts and natural disasters and pandemics where people stayed indoors. But this is different. This is not absence. This is restraint. Every person inside the band is choosing in real time, every second, not to speak. 11 million people are exercising the same restraint simultaneously because they have been told that the alternative is the death of someone they love. And the strange thing, the thing I keep coming back to between calls, is that the quiet does not feel like fear. It feels like obedience. It feels like a room where everyone has been told to listen, and is listening, and is waiting to hear what the listener wants from them. I do not know who the listener is. I am beginning to suspect we were not the audience tonight. We were the instrument, and the instrument is being tuned. 2:49 a.m. I want to do something I do not normally do on this broadcast. I want to reference a previous transmission, because I think the previous transmission has just become relevant in a way I did not anticipate when we aired it. 3 weeks ago, on this station, we covered the night the graveyards received a signal. Some of you were with me that night. Some of you remember the 4 Hertz carrier we identified then, modulating up from the older burial grounds, Gettysburg, the Mississippi Delta, the Spanish missions, the mound complexes in southern Ohio. Some of you remember that we never found out what the signal was for. We described it. We measured it. We sat with it through the night. And at dawn it faded, and we put it in the archive, and we moved on to other broadcasts. I am looking at Dr. Halloran's frequency readout right now, the one she emailed to Sam at 2:32 a.m. The carrier she is measuring tonight is 4.01 Hertz. The carrier from the graveyard night, which I went back and pulled from our archives during the last break, was 3.99, 0.02 of a hertz apart, statistically identical, within the margin of error of any seismic instrument made by human hands. I am not going to tell you what I think that means. I am not qualified. I am a radio broadcaster, not a geophysicist, and I am not going to use this booth to tell you the dead are speaking from underneath the country, because I do not know that, and saying it on the air would be irresponsible, and I have spent 19 years on this frequency trying not to be irresponsible. But I want every listener who was with me 3 weeks ago to understand that whatever spoke from underneath the ground that night is, in my professional and unscientific opinion, speaking again. And tonight it has learned to use our voices. Tonight it is not transmitting from the graves outward. Tonight it is reaching up through the country and using the intimate sounds we make to each other as the medium of its message. The medium is no longer the soil. The medium is us. Sam just slid a note across the desk. He's back in his chair. His hands are still shaking, but his handwriting is steady. He has written one word, in capital letters, underlined twice. The word is confirmed. I do not know what Sam is confirming. I have not asked. I will ask after the next break. For now, I am going to take that word at its face and tell you that someone, somewhere in this country tonight, has just connected the same 2 data points I have, and they have called this station, and Sam has answered the phone, and whatever they said to him has made him underline the word confirmed twice on a yellow legal pad in the middle of the worst broadcast I have ever delivered. Stay with me. Lock the frequency. If this voice reached you tonight, subscribe to the relay before the next carrier comes through. I do not announce when we transmit. We just transmit. Stay on the list with us. 3:08 a.m. The FCC released, against the CDC's recommendation, a single piece of audio to broadcast stations operating inside the band. It is a control tone, 41 hertz, sustained, with a slight wobble, a deliberate imperfection introduced into the tone to prevent it from being too pure, because pure tones, the engineering bulletin says, would themselves become vulnerable to layering. They are calling it a masking signal. The theory, as I understand it from the technical bulletin Sam is reading aloud to me through the glass, is that a masking signal in the audible range, broadcast continuously underneath all other audio content, will interfere with the 4 Hz carrier's ability to layer a fatal sound on top of human speech inside its envelope. The masking tone occupies the spectral space the carrier needs to operate. Where the masking tone is playing, the carrier cannot complete its layering. Where the carrier cannot complete its layering, people who speak intimate sounds to each other do not die. In other words, if you keep a radio on, tuned to a participating station, the killing stops in the room where the radio is playing, not in the next room, not in the house next door, in the specific room where the speaker is producing the masking tone at sufficient volume. The masking tone has a range. The range is approximately the size of a small living room. This station is going to begin transmitting the masking tone in approximately 4 minutes, underneath my voice, at a level low enough to be heard, but not low enough to be missed. You will hear it as a soft, trembling hum, the kind of hum you might mistake for a refrigerator in the next room. That hum is the sound of you being alive. Do not turn it off. Do not unplug the radio. Do not let the signal drop. If the masking tone fades, find another participating station before you do anything else. That is the deal we are making with you tonight. Keep us on. We will keep you alive. My voice is the proof that the tone is still there. If you can hear me, you can hear the hum. And if you can hear the hum, you can speak to the people in your room without killing them, but only in the flat, neutral voice, only with words you do not normally use with them, because the masking tone protects against the layering, not against the layering source. The source is still searching. The source is still listening. Stay with me. The tone begins in 3 minutes. 3:12 a.m. The masking tone is now underneath this broadcast. You can hear it if you concentrate. A soft, slightly trembling 41 hertz, like a very low hum from a very old refrigerator 3 rooms away. That is the sound of the room you are in remaining yours. That is the sound of the people in the room, with you, continuing to be the people they were before tonight. Hold on to it. Sam just told me by note, because we are now operating under the same protocols as the hospitals. Because Sam and I have been working together for 9 years, and our voices to each other have become exactly the kind of intimate, familiar sounds the carrier is most efficient at killing through. Sam just told me that the FCC has authorized 112 stations across the band to carry the masking tone. We are one of them. Last Light Relay is the smallest station on the list, by an order of magnitude. We are between a public radio affiliate in Wichita and a commercial AM station in Bloomington, and neither of them know we exist. And yet here we are, on the list, transmitting the same shielding signal as institutions, 1,000 times our size. I do not know how we ended up on that list. I have a suspicion. 3 weeks ago, when we covered the graveyards, this station's transmitter pulled signal data that no other regional station captured. Sam and I did not know what we had at the time. We archived it. We moved on. Somebody in a federal office somewhere in the months between then and tonight went through every regional broadcast archive looking for the 4 Hertz signature. And they found us. and they put a note in a file. And tonight, when the carrier came back, somebody pulled that file, and somebody decided this booth was worth shielding. If you are inside the band tonight, you are listening to a station that is alive specifically because of what we did 3 weeks ago. I want you to know that. I want you to know that the work we have done on this frequency, the calls we have taken, the patterns we have noticed, the nights Sam and I have spent in this booth tracking phenomena nobody else thought were worth tracking, that work was not entertainment. It was preparation. We did not know it was preparation, but it was. The signal holds. That is what we say in this booth, between Sam and me, when a broadcast is going long, and we are not sure we are going to make it to dawn. The signal holds. I am saying it now, on the air, for the first time, because I want you to hear it. The signal holds. As long as this voice is in your room, the signal holds. As long as the masking tone is underneath this voice, the signal holds. As long as you are listening, the signal holds. Stay with me. 3:31 a.m. The masking tone is not working everywhere. Reports are coming in from 3 towns inside the band, where the tone is being broadcast and confirmed at sufficient volume in private residences, and where deaths are still occurring. Pryor, Oklahoma. Carthage, Missouri. Marion, Illinois. In each case, the deaths happened in homes where the radio was on. The participating station was tuned in. The tone was playing at the correct frequency, and someone still died from a familiar sound, spoken by someone they loved. The FCC is calling these breakthrough events. The CDC is calling them adaptive incidents. Dr. Halloran, when she called back just now, called them what they are. She called them learning. She said the carrier is adapting. She said the 4 Hz frequency has drifted in the last 40 minutes. First to 4.04, then to 4.11, then back down to 3.96, then up to 4.19. It is not stable. It is moving. And it is moving in a pattern that is not random. Each frequency shift, she said, corresponds in time to an FCC adjustment of the masking tone. When the FCC adjusts the mask, the carrier moves. When the carrier moves, the FCC adjusts the mask. The dance has been going on for 40 minutes, and it is accelerating. She said one more thing before she hung up tonight, and I am going to share it because I think you deserve to hear it in her words, and not in mine, and not in the softer language a federal agency might choose. She said, quote, "Marcus, I have been a scientist for 31 years. I do not believe in malevolent forces. I have spent my career being skeptical of every interpretation of geophysical data that involves intention. I believe in physics. But tonight, the physics is paying attention to what we do, and the physics is adjusting in response to our countermeasures. And I do not know what to call that, except a mind. I do not want to call it a mind, but I cannot find another word." End quote. She hung up. She has not called back. Sam has tried her number twice. It goes to voicemail. He left a message in the flat neutral voice we have all learned to use tonight, and he asked her to call back when she can, and we have not heard from her since. 3:44 a.m. Diane called Sam from St. John's. The hospital has lost 3 more patients in the last hour, all of them in rooms where staff had been speaking in the flat neutral voice, all of them killed by the voices of family members on the phone, voices the staff had not been able to intercept in time. Diane is uninjured. She is exhausted. She has been on her feet for 14 hours. She told Sam she wanted to come home. Sam wrote a note. He held it up to the glass. The note read, "I need to go get her. I cannot let her drive." I told him to go. I told him to take my car because his car was at the back of the lot, and the streetlight there had gone out earlier in the night, and I did not want him walking that far in the dark. I told him to keep this station tuned in the car, at sufficient volume, the entire drive. I told him not to speak in the car, not to himself, not to her, not to the radio, not to any voice he heard on the radio. I told him to write notes to Diane with one hand on and drive with the other. I told him I would hold the broadcast alone until he got back. I told him that if I did not see him in the parking lot by sunrise, I would assume the worst and keep transmitting anyway, because that is what we do in this booth, and Sam knows that. And Sam would do the same if it were me out there and him in here. He nodded. He picked up his coat. He stopped at the door. He turned around and walked back to the desk, and he wrote one more line on the legal pad, and he slid it across to me before he left. The line read, "Marcus, if something happens to me out there, do not say my name on the air. Promise." I promised. The booth door closed behind him at 3:47 a.m. I am alone in this station for the first time in 9 years. The masking tone is still underneath my voice. The carrier is still moving. The country inside the band is still silent. 11 million people not speaking. 11 million people listening to the same hum, coming out of the same kind of radio, in the same kind of dark room. 11 million people doing the same thing I am doing right now, which is waiting for someone they love to come home. Stay with me. The signal holds. 3:56 a.m. The masking tone is holding. My voice is holding. The carrier outside is still moving northeast, but its speed has decreased to 38 miles per hour, according to the most recent reading from Dr. Halloran's array, which is still transmitting data, even though Dr. Halloran is not answering her phone. The band has now crossed into Indiana. The trailing edge has shifted slightly eastward in Oklahoma, which means the source is not stationary. The source is moving too, slowly, walking. I want to do something for the next several minutes. I want to read names. Not the names of the dead. We will not have a list of those for days. And I would not read them on air if we did, for reasons that should now be obvious to everyone listening. I want to read the names of stations. The 112 stations carrying the masking tone tonight. Every one of them transmitting the same trembling hum I am transmitting now. Every one of them holding a room for the people who can hear them. Because if you are inside the band, and your local signal drops, you need to know where else to turn the dial. You need a map of the shelter. KOSU Stillwater, KGOU Norman, KWGS Tulsa, KMUW Wichita, KUAR Little Rock, KASU Jonesboro, KRCU Cape Girardeau, KBIA Columbia, WSIU Carbondale, WUIS Springfield, WILL Urbana, WFIU Bloomington, WBAA West Lafayette, WGLT Normal, WIUM Macomb, KTSW San Marcos, KACU Abilene, KEDT Corpus Christi, KHCC Hutchinson, KRPS Pittsburgh, KNKX Tacoma. That one is outside the band, but they have voluntarily begun transmitting the tone as well, in case the band reaches them. KCUR Kansas City, KSMU Springfield, Missouri, KRWG Las Cruces, KENW Portales, KZUM Lincoln, KIOS Omaha, KVNO Omaha, WBHM Birmingham, WUAL Tuscaloosa. I'm going to keep reading. Keep the dial close. If my voice stops, find one of these. Do not let the tone drop in your room. The signal holds, as long as one of these voices is in your room. WWJSU Jackson, WMPN Jackson, WSF Tampa, WJCT Jacksonville, WLRN Miami, also outside the band, also volunteering, KAJX Aspen, KCFR Denver, KUNC Greeley, KRCC Colorado Springs, KSUT Ignacio, KSJD Cortez, KT Talkeetna, KBBI Homer. The list continues. Sam printed the full 112 before he left. I'll read more after the next development. Keep the dial close. 5:02 a.m. Something changed at 4:48 a.m. The carrier slowed. Dr. Halloran's network still transmitting. Still automated. Still functioning without her, is reporting that the band's forward edge, which had been advancing at a steady 42 miles per hour for almost 6 hours, and which had decelerated to 38 in the last reading I had, decelerated again to 29 miles per hour at 4:48, then to 18 at 5:01. The trailing edge in Oklahoma has not moved at all for 15 minutes. The band is contracting from the front. Whatever was being maintained from the source is no longer being maintained the same way. A graduate student at Dr. Halloran's university, a woman named Anya Vance, whose name I am using only because she explicitly asked me to use it on the air, and who has been monitoring the array since Dr. Halloran stopped answering her phone, called this station at 4:56. She had a theory. She did not like it. She told me anyway, because she said someone needed to say it out loud before sunrise, in case sunrise was the deadline. Her theory is this: the carrier was not an attack. The carrier was a search. Something was using familiar sounds, the most specific, the most personal, the most intimate sounds human beings produce as the parameters of a search. Every time one of those sounds was made inside the band, the carrier checked it against whatever it was looking for. If the sound matched what it was looking for, the person who produced it survived, because the carrier did not need to discard them. If the sound did not match, the person it was made for died, because the carrier had now ruled out one more possibility and was moving on. Anya said the survival rate inside the band is roughly 98.7%. She said the death rate is roughly 1.3%. She said that means the carrier checked approximately 11 million intimate sounds tonight and found 141,000 it could not identify, and discarded the recipients of those sounds, because the recipients of those sounds were not the person it was looking for. She said 141,000. I want you to hear that number again. 141,000 people died tonight inside the band, so that something underneath the ground could rule out 141,000 wrong answers. And the band is contracting, which means it has stopped ruling things out, which means it found the right answer. 5:29 a.m. Sam left this booth 1 hour and 42 minutes ago. He has not returned. His phone is not answering. Diane's phone is not answering. The hospital's text system, which had been operating reliably all night, stopped responding to outside queries at 5:15 a.m., 14 minutes ago. I have promised someone I would not say their name on the air, and I am keeping that promise. So I am going to say only this. If you are in a car tonight, on the road between this station and St. John's Medical Center in Tulsa, and you are listening to the masking tone underneath my voice, and you are still able to drive, keep driving. Do not stop. Do not roll the window down. Do not turn off the radio. Do not speak to anyone you pick up along the way. Do not say their name. Do not respond to their voice. Write notes. Point. Hold up fingers. The sun is rising in 58 minutes. The band is contracting. If you can stay inside a moving car, with the radio on until the sun comes up, you will be alive on the other side of this. You may even bring someone home. That is the only message I have for the person I cannot name. Keep driving. The signal holds. To everyone else listening, I am going to keep this broadcast running. Sam printed the rest of the station list before he left. I have more names to read. I have more frequencies to share. I have a 41 hertz hum underneath my voice that is keeping 11 million rooms quiet enough to survive until dawn. I am not going anywhere. Lock the frequency. We are still here. 6:11 a.m. The band has contracted to a circle approximately 40 miles across, centered on a point in eastern Oklahoma. Anya called back 20 minutes ago. Her array has identified the point. She will not say where exactly, because she said the coordinates are not for public release, because there are already people driving toward it. Cars on rural roads. Cars with their headlights off. Cars whose drivers have not been heard from in hours. People who lost someone tonight, and who think they know what the carrier was looking for. She said the carrier, in the last 20 minutes, has stopped searching. It is now producing a single, sustained sound at 3.99 hertz, from the point at the center of the contracting band. Exactly the frequency we measured under the graveyards 3 weeks ago. Exactly. To 3 decimal places. The same frequency. The same source signature. The same modulation envelope. She said the sound has a shape this time. The shape, when rendered as audio in the audible range, is a voice. A human voice. Speaking a single word very slowly. repeated, in a tone that her team described, quote, consistent with grief or relief or recognition. We could not tell which. The three sound the same when slowed enough. End quote. She would not tell me the word. She said she could not, because the word was a name, and she did not want to be the one who said it on the air tonight, in case the family of that person was listening, in case the carrier finished what it had been doing, and decided the person it had named was the last one it needed. I am going to honor that. I am going to honor every promise made on this broadcast tonight. I am not going to say the name. I am not going to play the audio. I am going to tell you only this. Something underneath the ground, somewhere in eastern Oklahoma, spent 6 hours listening to every intimate sound the middle of this country could produce. At the end of those 6 hours, it found the one it was looking for, and now it is saying that one name back to itself, over and over, at a frequency below human hearing, from a point in a field that no one is allowed to drive to. Whoever that name belonged to, whoever loved them, whoever made the sound that taught the carrier what to look for, whoever spent 21 years humming a two-note phrase into the ear of the person who became, tonight, the answer to a question being asked from underneath the country. I am sorry. I am so sorry. I do not know what tonight was. I do not know whether the carrier was looking for a person who is alive, or a person who is dead, or a person who has been dead for a long time, and is being looked for by something that has been looking for a long time. I do not know whether finding them is the end of this, or the beginning of something else. I do not know what happens at sunrise. I know only that the band is contracting, and the name is being spoken, and Sam has not come back, and the masking tone is still underneath my voice, and there are people in 11 million rooms right now waiting for me to say something that means it is over. I cannot say that yet. I will not say it before I know. 6:43 a.m. The sun is up over the transmitter 12 miles east of this booth. I can see the light from the booth window, a strip of gray turning to pale orange along the eastern edge of the parking lot, the kind of dawn light that makes the world look washed out and tired before it makes it look like anything else. The masking tone is still underneath my voice. The 4 Hertz carrier has not moved in 11 minutes. The point in Oklahoma is still producing the name. Anya's array is still recording it. The FCC has not yet rescinded the masking tone advisory. Hospitals inside the band are beginning to allow staff to speak again, one word at a time, in flat, neutral voices, with strangers only. Diane is, as far as we know, still alive at St. John's. The hospital text system came back online at 6:29 a.m. Sam still has not returned. I'm going to keep this broadcast running until he does, or until someone else comes through that door, or until the masking tone is rescinded and I am told, officially, by the FCC and the CDC and Dr. Halloran herself, if she ever calls back, that the people in this country can love each other out loud again. I do not know how long that will be. It may be hours. It may be days. It may be that the carrier never fully turns off, and that the masking tone becomes a permanent part of broadcast infrastructure, and that the language we use with the people we love is changed forever in ways we cannot yet imagine. I do not know. I am tired. I have been on the air for 7 hours and 21 minutes. I have not slept. I am going to keep going anyway, because the alternative is silence. And silence is not safe in a country where silence is now what something underneath the ground is listening for. I want to say one thing before I hand off to the overnight feed and let the tone carry the room without me for 10 minutes, because I have not slept, and I need 10 minutes to drink water and remember what my own face looks like in a mirror. If you survive tonight, if you are listening to my voice with someone you love in the room with you, do not say their name yet. Do not hum to them. Do not whistle. Do not use the soft voice. Wait. Wait until the advisory is lifted. Wait until Anya tells us the carrier is gone. Wait until the masking tone fades from this broadcast and you hear nothing underneath my voice except the room I am sitting in. When that happens, and it will happen, I want you to do something for me. I want you to look at the person beside you, and I want you to say their name out loud, in the voice you have always used, the voice that belongs only to them. I want you to take back the sound that was almost taken from you tonight. I want you to make the intimate sound again, on purpose, knowing what it cost, knowing what it almost was, knowing that the carrier listened to it and did not get to keep it. And I want you to remember that 141,000 families will not be able to do that. 141,000 rooms in this country are quiet tonight in a way they will not be loud again. 141,000 specific, irreplaceable, intimate sounds were used as search parameters and discarded, and the people they belong to will not hear them spoken back. Hold the sounds you have left. The signal holds. I'm going to step away for 10 minutes. The tone will carry. When I come back, I will tell you whether Sam has returned. I will tell you whether the carrier has stopped. I will tell you whatever Anya tells me next. Stay on the frequency. Stay in your rooms. This is Last Light Relay, WLLR 9913 AM. The signal holds. If you made it to the end of this transmission, subscribe to this channel before you close it. Send the frequency to one person who needs it. We return in 48 hours. Sam has not come back yet. I'm going to keep the booth open. If you are listening at the next transmission, I will tell you what happened. Stay inside. Stay quiet. Stay with us.